Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Down in the Valley. My name is Edson and accompanying me today, as always, good old friend and co-host Jacob Young. Jacob, what have you been up to, man?
Man, it's been a lot, kind of a long time, but yeah, no. Looking forward to talking some soccer as well. And yeah, talking about a crazy road win, even though of course we're eliminated from playoffs, but it's so great to see this team still fighting and to see not only the potential for next year, but what this team could have been without a lot of Houston Dynamo mix-ups.
I can definitely agree with that. I think one of the things that we've talked about in the last couple of games, off the air, on the air as well, has been that it's been even though that the chances at that time were slim to none to qualify for the playoffs. You know, we wanted this team. We wanted our players to keep on fighting, keep as if there was still something to play for. And even with elimination, you know, you're starting to see some of these guys, you know, continue to fight as if they were still like on the hunt for playoffs. You know, going up against New Mexico United, and we'll talk about that later on. You know, going to New Mexico United in such a hostile environment, you know, and getting a decent result, and honestly, it could have been a win. Thank you to Shane Beckford. But no. I mean, it was a little bit harder than what people make it seem to be. But we'll analyze that. That game. We'll analyze. Can't even talk to you. All right, got it out of my system. Okay. We'll analyze the match that happened this past Sunday against OKC Energy, and we'll talk about as well this Friday's match against Portland Timbers 2. Like Jacob said, we are eliminated officially from playoffs, and we are nearing the last game of the season. If we have time, if not, we'll have it for a separate standalone episode. We'll take the time to analyze the season as a whole. You know, what went well, what went wrong, what can we expect for next season, who do we want back, who do we have an idea might coming back, etc., etc. We'll probably, since there's a lot to talk about, we'll leave that for a standalone episode sometime later in the off season. And obviously we'll talk as well, I guess, a little bit of, you know, the idea or what we can do as a fan base to make sure that a season such as last year's and this year's, while it was a huge improvement over 2017, we actually felt, you know, that this team had a lot more to offer than the results seem to show, than the points. Because, don't get me wrong, like, this team is an improvement over last year's team in many aspects. But right now, one game away from the end of the season, we have the same amount of points as last year's team. We'll talk about what led to this. You know, is this 100% hashtag Daddy Dynamo's fault? Is there some blame on coach? Is there some blame on players? Is there some blame on the Toros front office? We would like to analyze that for another episode. But you know, it kind of left a sour taste in my mouth of this could have been a better season.
It really could have been a better season. I do agree. Of course, yeah, like you said, we'll talk about it more because, yeah, that's going to be a hot topic, and I've got some things to say on that note for sure.
Yeah, and you know, I really would like to have more people on this show, more people that have covered this team, you know, throughout the season. But then you look back and it's like, well, it's just me, you, Ray, Cesar,
and sometimes Andrew and someone from the monitor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd like to have like a little round table about this. That way we won't have a lot of jumbled. It won't be jumbled up with these topics that we're already talking about, and as well as that, we also would like I said during a couple of months ago, actually, we would like to have a round table in the off season with members of Eighth Notch, members of
Orange County.
Sorry, no. Excuse me. Members of the Seriously Local podcast, the San Antonio, the South San Antonio Soccer Roundtable, as well as the Three Birds Boldcast, and of course the organizers of Copa Tejas. We would like to have kind of like a roundtable of what did we like about Copa Tejas, what could be improved going forward. We would, like I said, this idea of Copa Tejas, I think it brought the necessary spark to the Texas rivalries. I don't know how much you agree with this, but just speaking in terms of RGV versus San Antonio, it had become pretty stale, to be honest.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It had, for sure. It did bring a big spark, nonetheless. But the one thing that I say can be improved was the hashtag car trouble, where the trophy did not make it down to RGV on the final closing weeks. When it was supposed to make it down to RGV when we played the
El Paso?
El Paso team. Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's really the only thing that I'd say would need to be improved. Other than that, was fantastic. It's about points. It's just like the Cascadia Cup, the way that the format is, to be exact. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, I honestly really enjoyed. It just looks like we were so close to winning it, but we choked against Austin Bold.
For the second time this season, not even the first.
Oh, jeez. So, anyways, that's our ideas going into the off season. Like I said, we aren't going to have a lot now that off season is here. We're not going to be having weekly podcasts like we usually do during the season. I mean, there's really not much to talk about, and honestly, roster movements aren't going to really be announced until January, maybe.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So there's really not going to be a lot to talk about. It's just but that does not mean that we cannot be influential as a fan base to make sure that the Dynamo front office, the Toros front office, listens to our concerns, our complaints, and as well as things that they have done well. But my biggest thing that I would like to do is kind of make sure that this front office and Dynamo front office, more importantly, Matt Jordan and the fan base, they're all pulling together into the same direction. Right now, it seems to me like the Toros side and the Dynamo side, they're all going in different directions. Yeah. And I think that's what screwed us over. That's one of the things that has screwed us over big time this season. And granted, it comes to a point right now where you just gotta wonder, like, if Matt Jordan really even cares, even what Toros front office wants.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I 100% agree.
I mean, and I think that that's something that isn't really that common, I want to say, in U.S. soccer. I don't know. I mean, you've have a lot more experience, or a lot more knowledge about different U.S. soccer fan bases. Portland, Seattle, blah blah blah. But it seems to me like not many fan bases actually have, where you can tell like they make a difference in the direction of their club.
Yeah, it's starting to grow more towards that way, for sure. I have noticed it, as in, well, now Minnesota United, that's kind of the way that it is. And the big thing was, of course, Save the Crew, and the Crew fan base really saved their team to keep them in there, and they got that new ownership and all that fun stuff too. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, no, the front office really for any soccer team normally, here's how they put it, or would really look at it, because it's kind of that same way. You look at just those fan bases. even LAFC I can bring into the mix, somewhat of LA Galaxy. I don't necessarily know how much LA Galaxy influences, like the fans influence the front office, but I mean, look, they got this a lot of time. They actually pay for some players, and keeping the fans in the seats is, I guess, their goal now. So that's big. But LAFC, that's another way. I guess the big thing is what can keep these fans in their seats and keep this team going and moving on, and what can bring back a club that had that type of success in a way, as in selling out stadiums even though it was a small one, or having a really good crowd, aka at that old Houston Cougar Stadium for Houston Dynamo. So it's, and what I was trying to get at for the Minnesota thing is, well, they've got a huge fan base that also called the Wonderwall, and they've gone through those dark times too. So I guess it's just a bump in the road, as in you have to go through those dark times in order for things to smooth out and for the fans. And just as long as the fans are passionate about this team, saying, look, change this and change this, please do something different, it's the same results every year, it's insanity right now, then I guess they'll start to care. But of course, it starts with the small movement, just like now we've seen with Houston. We've seen that small movement kind of not necessarily take off, but just with a bit of a movement, I think we might see things pick up just a tiny bit there. But once again, it's, yes, Houston and MLS and all that are still in their infant stage and crap like that. But look at the Toros, barely, they've barely necessarily grown, as well as just, you can't necessarily get a lot of fans into the crowd. And then you've seen the supporter group also kind of shrink as well, nonetheless. So it's a sign of, well, if the fans don't necessarily care that much, why should not only the Toros front office care, but also why should Matt Jordan care? If that's just going to happen, people don't care. We just want to get some players, so we're not going to care what the coach thinks.
And I think that's the biggest issue right now is getting the general fan base to be participative with the Toros. Whether just talking about the Toros. I mean, you look at the social media accounts on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. 0 comments, 1 comment, maybe even 2 comments. But there's no interaction between fan base and the team's social media. And I don't know if that is because the social media team doesn't do a lot to interact with the fans, or it's because the fan base at RGV has kind of gotten to the point of, like you said, whatever kind of thing. And it sucks. We're barely in our 3rd year, and we're having that. Something needs to be done, With the number one priority. I don't expect this team to win week after week. I don't expect them to be a Phoenix Rising. But I do expect them to, number one, maintain some consistency season after season. Maintain some sort of baseline or foundation when it comes to the roster. Keep legends, or not legends, more along the lines like keep the players that have connected with the fan base and promote the shit out of it. This, we have Isidro, Shalin, of course, same guy. I don't know what's on. Chuy, these are players that since they've come in, especially Chuy, like he's been very interactive with the fan base. He's always out after the games, going out there interacting with the fans. So has Robert Castellanos, Coronado, most of the team Connor, Kyle. Promote the heck out of it. Let them. I don't know. If you see that the fan base is kind of forming a bond with them, and they're doing well on the pitch, that they've become the foundation of this team, and then all of a sudden Matt Jordan comes like, no, you're out, you're out, you're out, you're out. And then the next year we have a bunch of brand new guys. That's why the fan base never identifies, sadly, with this team. Because every year or every 2 years, it's a whole different identity.
Yep.
I mean, we lost Charlie Ward in 2017, who the fan base adored. Yep. And he continues to adore this team. Like, he loves this team. He loves the fans here at RGV. He still does, even when he's in Ottawa or Ottawa. I always pronounce it Ottawa. Mm-hmm. We lost Todd Warden to Portland Timbers 2. Mm-hmm. You could say it's a regression, because let's be honest, who goes to see Timbers 2? Mm-hmm. I did a couple of days ago a kind of like a starting 11 of all, the best players in each position for all of the history of RGV. Man, that team would have totally, I'm not going to say they would have won the USL Championship Cup, but they could have at least been a playoff team year in and year out.
Yep.
Jacob?
Yeah. I mean, I agree. You're talking about players that, well, yeah, Todd Warden, I know TJ Kastner ended up going back to school and stuff like that, but Kastner was, yes, some say he couldn't have had a real opportunity at the MLS because maybe he just was too young or just didn't have the skill enough, but had that determination. Once again, 90% of that team had determination, which made them way better than they actually could have been. Granted, if George Malky wasn't injury prone, it's the same deal. And then you also have Rob Lovejoy, the legend of all legends. He ended up, of course, coaching at his alma mater. Mm. But that's another player that actually, I think, if he never breaks his, I believe, leg, it was.
I believe so.
Yeah. Then he's with the Houston Dynamo right now. If he never breaks his leg, in my opinion. Because he was that good. Mm-hmm. He crushed it in the USL in that first year. So he's another key player. So, yes, we've had all these players go left and right and all that. Because, once again, they just needed more time. But, of course, apparently the Dynamo didn't have any time, but we look at the team every single year, and we see that depth just go to nowhere. Not necessarily nowhere, but then we just don't have enough. We don't have enough strikers at the end of the season. We don't have enough attackers. We don't have enough defenders. We barely have a left back who's holding it together. Same with the right back that I think just retired, to be fair, DeMarcus Beasley. Mm-hmm. And, of course, Kyoto's gone. So, what I was saying, through that, of course, you start off with the season and you look at this, you looked at the Houston Dynamo roster and you also looked at the Toros roster. You said to yourself, oh, okay, Toros roster looking a bit weak, but we've got some players finally back from a year and we've got a head coach back for the first time in club history. Cool. And then, of course, the hot start with Houston was fantastic. And those players looked healthy. Then, of course, you started to get a bit shaky towards the summer. And once again, you saw Houston lose almost player after player due to injury. And then you saw a couple of those players come back to RGV or come down to the RGV for the first time to, of course, get back to form. That was fine. in my opinion, that's exactly what RGV FC is meant. You get those players that, yes, they're coming back from injury. You let them play a bit, whether that be the first half or the second half, and then they build their skill back up and they go back up to Houston. That's totally, I'm fine with that. The thing that I'm not fine with is sending down, players for no reason. But that's totally beyond whatever. Once again, the Houston Dynamo later in that season had depth where they didn't need to have depth, and then they didn't have depth where they needed it. And that was, of course, attackers, defenders, and all of that stuff. And so then it made, RGVFC a bit scarce, and the RGVFC somewhat got some other players, of course, that were not only taken, like we saw one player, which I'm shockingly blanking on his name, but either way, Malik Foster wasn't taken. I mean, he was gone. He was kicked off the club basically in a sense.
It wasn't really,
except for the fact that yes, he might have wanted some extra cash. It's what I've heard. I mean, it's way past. It's just like, oh well. But Malik, and then
here's my biggest issue about the Malik thing. If you, the Dynamo, know that you are not going to renew Malik Foster, why did it take the Dynamo forever to find a replacement? Why did we have to wait so long to bring in Deshane Beckford? Or at least make it official.
No, yeah, Beckford. Yeah, no, I agree. Because it took us forever to bring in. So Malik is gone after that last international break or something like that. After
the Gold Cup.
And then a month passes by, basically August, or July, excuse me, and August, and then September rolls around. We're already basically struggling, and then here comes this kid in late September, I want to say.
I think it was early September, actually, or early or mid-September, around there. That's when he officially announced.
Okay, mid-September, yeah, exactly. To your point, that's still late. That's later than we would have liked. It's dumb. Yes, why didn't they start to find someone closer to the international break? That's like the easiest time to freaking scout. Why? Because most likely they're playing, if they're that good, they're playing for their national team, whether it be, a CONCACAF national team or, a smaller sided, I don't know. Everyone's playing friendlies against someone before their big competitions. It's just, yeah.
To be fair, at least it gave Coach and us the opportunity to see what Kevin Rodriguez brought to the table. And it took him a while, but once he got used to playing out there on that position, I think he showed a lot of potential, to the point that because of that, Deshane Beckford is always sitting on the bench, even at this stage.
Yeah.
And it also gave the opportunity for Nico Lemoyne. Who else am I missing? No, because we would. Oh, and now with Juan Carlos Obregón Jr., the young academy kid, who, by the way, this kid has got a lot of potential, to the point where Camilo Monroy is nowhere to be seen. Like, in the depth chart, this young lad is given a lot more confidence by Coach Echeverri, or at least the Dynamo in general, and has shown it on the pitch to be more influential when he comes in than Camilo Monroy. And I think that's really good. That's a really good, promising aspect for the Dynamo Academy. Because in previous years, yes, we've had memos, but we've also had Lucateros, where they go in, or they're starters, and nothing happened.
We've had Junkos as well.
Yeah, but that's not a Dynamo. I mean, Dynamo Academy players.
Oh, Academy.
Like from
players,
the Academy. Yes, from the Academy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this the with Juan Carlos Obregón, I think he's someone to be excited about, not only as a Toro fan but as a Dynamo fan. Mm-hmm. Because everybody wants the next memo here in Houston. They want the next memo. They want the next Tyler Derrick without the off season or the off the pitch nuances.
Well, yeah, without the off the pitch antics that he did, and also without the concussion prone. Just start off with no concussions, please, and then we'll see where that leads. Hopefully, they don't get one. Yes, over time you'll get a concussion. That's fine, but if you get close to 5, that's a red flag.
But I mean, don't you think also it has to do a lot with how rigid the MLS concussion protocol is?
Not really how rigid it is.
I mean, because the times that he's been under concussion protocol, it's been for he hits his head on the post, and some things that you can't, as a keeper, you can't really control much because all you care about at that moment is intercepting the ball, making the save. And the times he's gotten injured, he's made the save, and then he just happened to hit his head on the post or hit his head on somebody else's head, whatever.
Yeah.
So with keepers, I think that they're more concussion prone because of the area that they have to do, having to deal with the posts and things like that. And I think it's a lot more about his style. He's a lot more acrobatic than, let's say, Joe Willis. Joe Willis, he's not that acrobatic, but he knows, he knows how to position himself to not need to make those kind of acrobatic saves. I don't know if you know what I mean. And with Tyler, he makes those acrobatic saves, but once you're in the area, it's like, well, it looks like I'm heading for the post. All right, I got to brace myself. And that's pretty much it. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about New Mexico United since we did miss having a show last week. We had it, and we had it in the last second. I was looking, I was narrating this match, and I was decently surprised by how well RGV held themselves defensively against New Mexico United in front of 13,000 people or something like that.
Yeah.
They were also able to force, with their pressure, they forced a lot of mistakes, especially in the first half. They forced a lot of mistakes in transition against New Mexico. There was one in particular where in transition, New Mexico loses the ball and pretty much gives Carlos Small the 1v1, and he totally flounds it. Like he sends it past the post. And I was like, oh man.
I mean, to be fair, that is Carlos Small, his move. He loves to send it past the post.
Yeah, but and that's one of the reasons why, when I was watching the Panama versus Mexico game yesterday, and you feel like, you're like, Carlos Small could have been there, could have been in that Panama lineup, but those kind of little details really brought him down in the depth chart for Panama, for Tolo Gallego.
Yeah,
and it's like, hey, it's things that he could easily change about himself, to get back on the groove. It's these kinds of don't get me wrong, he does have a lot of goals. He is our leading goal scorer for the season, but you also wonder how many more goals could he have under his belt if he was as clinical as he was, as he should be.
Yeah, exactly. He could be the leading scorer. by a lot more. It's just it's so true. He missed the mark, and we kind of saw it coming in. I guess when he came in, I saw, yes, this guy works hard and likes to score. And then, well, we saw his setback for sure, where we were almost instantly saying, look, this is a great guy for Houston.
Yeah.
Then he makes that setback. Then we hear those stories about how he didn't really care, or those rumors to be exact. And then same thing goes on. He comes back a bit strong. And then, of course, we're not at practice every week. We hear, well, this guy practices the way that he plays, which he plays great. But when it comes down to trying to score a goal in an open net, sometimes he won't put the ball in the back of the net. But yes, I did. To be fair, I did notice an attitude change later on in the season to where Carlos Small tried his best to really try and not only get the ball in the back of the net, but just focus. And that was something that I thought was very interesting for him. But like you said, he missed those mistakes, or those mistakes costed him a spot in that Panamanian lineup. And to be fair, the Panamanian lineup is only okay. And he could have fit right. Yeah, just like you said, he could have done well there.
How much of an influence do you think this new formation that Coach Echeverry is trying with the two-striker formation, how much of an influence do you think that had in this uprise in Carlos Small?
It had to have been something because, yeah, when you're an attacker and something like that, without this formation, you're fighting. You are fighting for that one attacker spot, saying that you're the killer or just a striker in general instead of being an attacker or a forward. So it had to have brought help for him, especially given the fact that, well, you bring back Michael Salazar, especially later into this year. Yes, Michael Salazar was off after he came back from Houston, but then we see Michael Salazar also getting back onto his feet and really just getting locked in and helping our team out. And then, of course, Carlos Small with the guy that was basically fighting a position for before he went off to Houston, before Salazar did, I think also helped. And it was just not only for Carlos Small, but look at what it's done for the whole team.
One of the things that I've noticed from the season is, number one, the fact that with this two-striker lineup, there seems to be a lot more goal opportunities than with a one-striker lineup. And that is, in my perspective, I don't know what you think about this, but it seemed like under a one-striker lineup, the striker was extremely isolated from everybody else. You know, he had to rely on crosses in order to try to get some sort of opportunity on goal. And what has RGV really been struggling for the most part this season? Getting accurate crosses. Now with this two-striker lineup, you see a lot more of build-up play between your midfielders and your two strikers. You know, through balls, lobbed through balls, and just 1-2 passing that breaks apart the defense. And they've gotten a lot more 1v1 opportunities that way. And I think, you know, it's just like the Dynamo. I think the same thing happened with the Dynamo with Christian Ramirez and Mauro Manotas. And I think with the Toros, it really opened up a whole new potential for this team under this new formation.
Yeah, exactly. It did bring this team a new formation, and it brought in. I mean, it helped Coach out for sure. Coach knew that he had to do something, especially given the fact of the bad times and things like that. But it's just amazing that what a formation in general in soccer tactic can do to really help benefit your team.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. It's like, it's a new perspective on things, and it kind of also shows that coach can be flexible as well. Depending on the circumstances, we know not only coach but also this roster can be flexible. In circumstances, you might need a two-striker lineup to be a lot more offensive, or when you need to defend, you can always use 5 defenders, because we've seen that. We've seen that from this team in the late. We just saw it against OKC. Where you sacrifice an attacking-minded player and you bring in another defender like Castellanos to form a line of 5, defend the results, or a 4-2-3-1, which has been used, usually as well. So yeah. That kind of flexibility has kind of helped the Toros kind of adapt to different scenarios, rather than just using the 4-2-3-1 like almost all 90 minutes every week.
Yeah, exactly. Normally, of course, I'd say that the 4-2-3-1 would be superior, but nonetheless, of course, he's proved it wrong, and that's exactly. It also goes back to coaching and what we talked about early with Houston, and then the let go of Wilmer Cabrera to be exact.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so true. You saw during the game when teams would figure out what Houston Dynamo were kind of doing. Cabrera just, you said it best. He didn't care that they were finding things. And so then we saw Cabrera, not change the formation or anything like that. And so then it brought havoc and it brought problems and more goals and things like that, because, well, Houston just couldn't get anywhere. And so when you're a USL coach as well, with the plan of moving up also to the MLS and further and all of that, just like the players are, well, you've got to also teach the players, look, we can't just keep doing this formation even throughout the game. I need to let you know as well, we're most likely at one point, if we have to, sacrificing an attacker, just like you said, sacrificing a defender so we can push up, whether that means bringing Kyle Adams up the pitch on a consistent basis, just like we saw a lot during this season. And also at a time past halftime, we can also switch up a formation after we learned this one. And I think they learned that one fine. The two, look at it, 4-4-2. Yeah, 4-4-2. So,
yeah, because
it's great.
It really seems that Carlos and Michael have kind of blended together really, really well. They complement each other. Also with Chuy and Kevin Rodriguez, on the outsides, they've done really well offensively. How many times have we complained like, oh, well, this team isn't scoring any goals, or this team is struggling to get some opportunities on goal? With this new formation, it seems like it's like they're a lot more aggressive. They're a lot more lethal up in the upper third. And we're seeing it in these last couple of matches. Like I said, this was in the 11th minute, that one-on-one with Carlos Small. Then you had another opportunity in the 38th minute with Deshane Beckford. Was it Deshane, or was it? No, it was actually, I think it might have been what's his name? Kevin Rodriguez. Kevin Rodriguez, attracting a penalty, attracting the foul, getting a penalty called. And this time, Carlos Small was able to score that pen. But it seemed like after that, that goal was scored, one of the things I mentioned in my broadcast that in that game was, this are the times where we see how well these players learned from previous mistakes, learned how to maintain their composure, learn how to maintain their concentration. These next couple of minutes are very crucial. Can they keep up? Can they keep this this lead? And they didn't. A couple minutes later, they lose the. Andrew Samuels loses the ball in transition. They pass the ball over to the other side towards Manny Padilla. And Manny Padilla, who had been on fire the past couple of weeks with assists, does it again against the Toros. And I believe it was in like 43rd minute. Nobody's marking the attacker. That I think it was Sam something. Sam Hamilton. Nobody marks Hamilton. Like, Kyle Adams, kind of reacts a little bit late to Hamilton's run. And just pretty much all Hamilton has to do is deflect the ball to the far post where Nico Corti can't get to it. But, we come back to saying, these defensive mental lapses have also hurt this team. And it's one of the things that needs to be improved come for next season. Whoever is here is back, or whoever gets signed for next season, you need to understand that you have to maintain your concentration when you get scored on, when you score, or when it's the last 10 minutes of the match.
Yeah. Exactly. It's going to be interesting to see next year, just like you said, the players getting signed and stuff like that. And I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Only time will tell. Of course, this last match might prove a lot, to say so the least, against Portland, just due to the fact you've got to play your heart out at home on a Friday night in Texas. A Friday night in Texas in October. I'm trying to say that in as much times because, well, there's a big conflict there, to say so the least. But
USL, what? Like, really, USL? Like, Texas, Friday. Like,
yeah.
Do you not see the correlation there?
Exactly. I'm very upset at them.
Yeah, because this isn't the RGVC front office issue. This is totally a USL issue. There was no reason to put in this last match on Friday, especially if it's if the Texas team is at home.
Yep.
But I digress. I'm not gonna say anything anymore about that. Now the Toros were able to hang on throughout most of the match. I think I was really scared, knowing how well the New Mexico United played in their. No, never mind. Because New Mexico in their previous match was winning 2-0, and they lost, and they lost that lead. They ended up tying 2-2 against Phoenix Rising. Yeah. So my biggest fear on that is, okay, it happened to them before. They were not going to let it happen again at home again. Losing a lead or not being able to get a victory, especially with the fact that they were still a team that is still fighting for a playoff spot. So yeah. I knew that right off the bat, New Mexico was going to try to be a lot more aggressive in the second half, trying to find that go ahead goal. And they were very close at many times. Nico Corti had a couple of decent saves out there that kept this level. And I think the biggest concern here for me was how easily what's his name? Let me get his name. Santi Moore. How easily Santi Moore was able to receive the ball up out on the left wing and look for opportunities to shoot, look for opportunities to cross. Granted, he wasn't 100%. They weren't 100% lethal in actually getting the ball inside the net, but the ease at which he would receive the ball out there, and it kind of left me trembling. I was like, like knowing the level of play, the talent of Santi Moar, knowing the talent of Kevon Frater when he came in at the 67th minute, I was like, can the Toros hang on? And they were able to. They even had an opportunity. Toros had an opportunity right at the last second by Chuy Enriquez, right in front of goal, right in the goal line, to send the cross over to Deshane Beckford. And Deshane, could have done anything else. Could have headed the ball. I don't know. But he decides, just trying to redirect it with his chest. And all the ball did was kind of just slide over his chest. And you're like, those could have been very valuable 3 points that could have kept us on that could have kept this team on the hunt. Mm-hmm. At least for one more week.
Yep.
I'm like, oh dear. Like, what was going through your mind in that play?
I mean, what was going through my mind in that play is probably what would always be going through my mind in those types of plays is just, here we go again. Simple as that. Because it's not like it hasn't happened before, especially closer to the end of the match. It's just things, you don't take advantage of more opportunities for sure. And then, well, here we go. You're going to at least draw now. It was just, well, it's a classic thing is really what I was thinking.
I mean, the result in and of itself wasn't bad, but that missed opportunity kind of left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths where we could have had something more. And especially with the circumstances going against the team at that time, you're like, it left a sour taste in my mouth. And I know a lot of people in social media, like especially with Stampede, they're like, we almost had it, and the team knows that they almost had it. And now we fast forward to last Sunday. Now the Toros headed to OKC in order to try, already going into this game already eliminated because of the previous week's result against New Mexico United. And a couple big changes, shakeups in the lineup. No Chuy Enriquez, not even on the bench. No Nico Corti, not even on the bench. Mm-hmm. You had Ben Willis, who, by the way, hold on. We are not worthy. We are not worthy, Ben Willis. Hashtag not Joe Willis. But he does bring honor to the last name Willis, to be honest. What a game by Ben Willis on Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a phenomenal game by him. You're talking about, chances. What I really enjoyed about it was kind of back and forth. Yes, the start was more OKC than anything, but it really was able to kind of turn into a kind of a back and forth match. And sure enough, Ben Willis is showing how much he's grown from, the start of the season to now is insane. When you make those big plays, it's huge. But at the same time, in my opinion, it's just the defense had to be thinking, okay, we got to do a better job. He saved us once. Can he do it again and again? Probably, but we don't want to take that risk, is my point from that defensive standpoint. So, yeah, Ben Willis, fantastic job nonetheless. And I look forward to him still being with the Toros not only next year, but for him to have a chance at the first team, maybe not next year, but in a couple of years for sure, because, yes, it's just the way that the goalkeeper standpoint has been so far.
And we keep on saying this, talking about goalkeepers with the Houston Dynamo. I don't think in the club's history have they had a problem finding good goalkeeper talent. We've always had decent goalkeeper talent with MLS. Pat Onstad, Tyler Derrick, Joe Willis, Tally Hall. as well. And, we've always had some sort of, or they've had an eye for spotting good goalkeepers, not only for their starting positions, but also for their bench. We had Callie Brown, Callum Irving with the Toros, except for, what was his name? The one for Puerto Rico. Forgot his name, from 2017. I think that was a kind of like an exception to the rule. But other than that, with Nico Corti, Ben Willis, they've been able to find decent goalkeepers for not only for the Toros but also for Houston Dynamo. Yeah. So it just shouldn't come as a surprise that we have two. Oh, Michael Nelson, of course. Mm-hmm. It doesn't come as a surprise that we have three really good goalkeepers with this team throughout this season. Because Nico's had really good games as well. So has Michael Nelson, and so has Ben Willis. Ben Willis, he might have the least amount of minutes out of the three, but the times that he has been required to play, he's done an excellent job. Mm-hmm. Against Austin Bold, he really was kind of let out to dry. Let's be honest. Yeah. Because he had a lot of decent saves in that match. But the game, with the goals that did go in, it was, and I think he was only scored 2, because the first one they scored it against Nico Corti. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and those were like really dumb mistakes by the defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to be fair, I mean, I'd have to say this, especially with just all the keepers in general, especially this year. Nico Corti, yes, he technically had like his one bad game or whatever, or his bad run of things with the Toros. And then same thing with Michael Nelson. Michael Nelson, most memorable thing is him coming from Houston from that Open Cup game. Of course, letting in those last goals, but at the same time, of course, it was more of the defense's fault. But still, of course, you're a goalkeeper. You're the last line of defense. You got to save. You got to save those in general, even though, of course, you can't save them all the time.
Definitely agree with that. Here was my biggest concern the first couple, after watching, like say, like the first 15, 20 minutes of this match. Omar Gordon. I think his name, I think it is Omar Gordon. Yeah, Omar Gordon. I believe he was an ex-San Antonio FC player. His speed was like, it was troublesome for Andrew Samuels to defend against. I felt like he got burned by Omar Gordon a couple of times in the match, that I was like, man, if OKC is able to capitalize on Omar Gordon's speed, we're in big trouble. Mm-hmm. And yes, he has the speed, but he's like Jorgen Damm. Like, he cannot get he couldn't get a decent shot or a decent cross and the only good cross that he had, it was intended to be a shot. So they were able to hang on 0-0 in the first half. Then in the second half, Isidro Martinez gets off of a corner kick, gets the assist to Connor Donovan. And this happened, I believe. Oh, I do want to, before the goal, there's this moment of where they kind of showed their lack of experience when it comes to not time wasting, but like allowing their defenders to get back into position. In the 65th minute, I don't know if you remember this. So there's this ball that I believe it was who was it? Coronado. He was trying to control, but the ball kind of gets away from him, so it goes out for a throw in. And Kyle Adams, instead of trying to hold the ball, kick it farther, or just not allowing OKC to get to, what's the word I'm looking for? Surprise them like they did. You're left with just Connor Donovan against another really fast player. Their striker kind of left him in a one-on-one situation. You got Omar Gordon, following close behind, with his speed, gets a one-on-one opportunity, and Ben Willis just makes the really damn good save. Last resort with his sticks out his foot and avoids for the ball to go in. But it's one of those things where, like, you got to be a little bit more intelligent when it comes to kind of playing. I don't want to say dirty, but, don't expose yourself like that kind of thing. I don't know. You know which play I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I think so. And it's crazy. I mean, the same thing with Kyle Adams as well. I guess Kyle Adams had too much greens for his morning breakfast and didn't have enough protein in him to, I guess, control that in a sense. But I mean, that play.
Then some fighting words, Jacob. Nah, I'm just saying.
That was just one thing, but oh well.
Yeah, go ahead. Just messing with you.
But yeah, no. It was just, one play, but we were able to find a way around that play just afterwards. Yes, those are small mistakes that, especially in a good game like this, you can kind of nitpick and say, hey, look, you still need to make sure that, you can learn from this mistake here, and then we'll continue on for next week and the next season.
And then, like I said, a couple minutes later, that's where RGV, gets another opportunity with the Shane Beckford that goes for the corner. And then in that corner, that's where RGV gets their go-ahead goal with Connor Donovan. What an accurate pass by Isidro Martinez for that goal. It was right on the money, to where Connor Donovan was going to be. Then a couple minutes later, you bring in Juan Carlos Obregon, the young he's Honduran from the Dynamo Academy, and he once again, he attracts a penalty, and Carlos Small hits it in for the go ahead for the second goal of the night, and it just kind of was the cherry on the top for a really good performance. By the team in OKC. Now, my question to you is, was this a soft foul called inside the box?
I mean, some can argue yes and some can argue no. I think it was a bit, but at the same time, that's a foul nonetheless. And that was a good call, in my opinion. It reminded me a bit of the foul that made Liverpool before the international break win against Leicester City.
I mean, because
it's a penalty.
I mean, because you see the defender wrap his arm around Obregon's stomach. Yeah, he kind of throws himself to the ground, but at the end of the day, there's an attempt to stop the player from going out any further. And I think, this was a penalty kick. This was a good call by the referee. Some say it might be too rigoristic, but at the end of the day, like you said, this is contact. This is a penalty. This is a penalty kick under the rules by the governing body of the sport.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. It's the rules. Simple as that. You can't, especially inside the box. Yes, inside the box it gets more physical. But when you put out your hands in soccer to really defend with your hands, you are asking to get called with something like that. If you're coming in from behind, it's the same deal. You're going to get called with something. And sure enough, they did. That's a foul. It could have been a little soft, but at the same time, have you really seen a penalty that has been, of course, not a slide tackle from behind? but just have you really seen a penalty that hasn't been soft? It's just the way it happens.
You do have a point there, honestly. You know, here's something interesting about OKC Energy. You know, I'm looking at their lineup. They only had 4 substitutes. Like, what's up with that, dude?
Yeah, that is strange, for sure. Yeah, I'm looking at their lineup as well, and you don't really realize these things until, of course, you look at it. And yeah, I can't explain that either. It's either they had some, which I don't believe they had players coming into this game suspended. Might have had players coming into this game hurt, but other than that, now to be fair, we have seen a bit of a downfall from OKC in the past years with players retiring or things like that, but not enough for it to just be 4 substitutes at home.
Yeah.
I mean, on the road, you see that you're kind of shocked, but at the same time, you're saying to yourself, well, that's expected because they don't want to bring their whole roster to on the road, or they don't have to. They only have to bring like close to 5, and that's it. So 5 substitutes to be exact. So yeah, it's very strange. Hopefully that doesn't mean bad things to come for OKC as in the future.
So here's the best part about getting this results in OKC was the fact that you scored 2 goals on the league's leading saver, Cody Lorendi, Mr. Dancing Man himself.
Yep.
He leads the league with 105 saves throughout the season. So the fact that you're able to get 2 past him, it just goes to show that that this offense really has the potential to be better. Could have been better this season. Had they stayed a lot more consistent throughout the season. We could be talking about playoffs, but not this year, sadly. So overall thoughts on this match.
Overall thoughts on this match, I thought we thoughts on not just this match, but also the New Mexico United match. That kind of passed my expectations, and I expected a worse result at New Mexico and hopefully a win, of course, to keep the playoffs alive. But that was very slim in a sense. And then we come over to OKC, and it's kind of the same deal, especially watching, a lot of the start and thinking, okay, this might be a bit tough because it looks like OKC's got a lot of the possession, which I shouldn't have been shocked about that just due to the fact, well, yes, the Toros only had 44% possession, but that, makes you realize that's just the way that the Toros like to play in general because it's kind of a Houston Dynamo thing as well. So that shouldn't have shocked me that much. But then, once again, exceeding expectations by A, getting a shutout on the road, and B, scoring 2 goals. 2, yes, one considered a penalty, but the other one, well, it was just a fantastic strike, and that's once again what the team could have been and should have been.
Yeah. I think my final thoughts on these 2 matches were totally agree with you. They did a lot better than we thought they were going to do. And I think that we as fans should be kind of excited of how well they played these matches against teams that were still on the hunt to make it into playoffs. And I feel that, kind of leads me to believe like they just needed a kind of like a motivational push to get to the talent that they know that they have. And now we're just going to be like, well, we know this team is good. Now we're like, well, like how much is this going to change from this year to next year kind of thing? Yep. We're going to have to start from scratch again. And that's not something that I really want to think about right now. So
Yeah.
this leads us to, at this moment, you look at the standings. Like we said in the beginning of the season, in the beginning of the show, we are eliminated from playoffs. We do have 38 points at this moment. We are tied with OKC Energy, and we are tied with Portland Timbers 2. Now here's the difference. Number one is, Portland Timbers 2 is also eliminated, and that's our next rival. And unlike Portland and OKC, the last 5 games, the Toros have a positive streak with 3 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss. OKC Energy had 4 losses with this previous match. 4 losses, 1 draw. Portland Timbers 2, 1 win, 4 losses in a row. So while Toros are going up, these 2 teams are ending in a downward direction. Now, like I said, we're going up against Portland Timbers 2 on Friday. And knowing this, does this make you confident that we're going to get a positive result on Friday? Or does this worry you that Portland Timbers 2 are going to be motivated to avoid ending this season with 5 losses in a row?
Well, for sure, Portland will be motivated indeed. I mean, no other team really wants to lose 5 games in a row, maybe even 6. So it's, yeah, of course, that's kind of worrying. But another news, I guess, or good news in a sense is, well, the Timbers too, guess what? It cooled off over there in Portland pretty nicely. It's been decent weather over there is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
And over here in Texas, it hasn't been. So that, of course, is always on the Toros side. Yes, we got that small little cool front also today as well as last week, but it got back up to a good temperature. And then, of course, it's not dry air here. It's humidity. And that's always in the Toros' favor. Yes, it is a weird day. But also, guess what? Portland Timbers had to fly over here to the PTFC 2 to be exact, had to fly over here. And that trip just to get to Dallas or just to get to Houston is about 4 hours, maybe even more than 4 hours. Mm-hmm. So you also think about it that way. They will probably fly out tomorrow or are already here. If they're smart, they're already here. But if they're not smart, well, then they are flying out tomorrow and probably getting there tomorrow and being a bit, well, needing rest, and we'll have to get used to time. So there's a lot of variables for that. I feel confident that, yes, the Toros can get a good result for sure because there's no meddling for sure, and it's all Toros players. So only time will tell for sure, but I think Toros can probably get it done.
So, a couple of questions going into this match is, number one, will we see Chuy Enriquez back on this lineup again? Because it really was surprising not seeing him travel with the team last week.
Man, that's gonna be tough. Once again, I want to say only time will tell. I hope. I think we'll see Chuy Enriquez actually in the lineup for the final game this season. I really do think.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there might be stuff behind the scenes, but we don't know because Chuy Enriquez has technically been here for two years now. And we all know with Houston Dynamo what they like to do. Yes, they can make exceptions, but sometimes it's not likely.
Mm-hmm.
So, if in fact it is his last game here, because of the fact that the 2-year rule, I guess is what I'm calling it, why wouldn't he be here? He cherishes, once again, the fans, just like you said. And it's true, he has stayed afterwards to greet the fans, greet the Stampede, and all that fun stuff. And he's a very humble guy in general. Wouldn't do anything dumb to take that title away, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And unless, of course, coach has other plans where it's just like, no, you're not even going to be in the lineup, then, of course, that's on coach. But from what I know, Chuy Enriquez wouldn't miss this last match. Maybe he is dealing with an injury that we don't know either. Maybe he got hurt a bit in practice. And, of course, knowing media down here, we didn't hear anything about it. So
I think he was. I think he is. I think there's no way Chuy Enriquez would want to miss the last game of the season.
Yep.
Especially with this whole idea, this whole indecision of, is this his last season with the Toros? Is he coming back? You know, if it is indeed his last season, he's gonna want at least his goodbye in one way or another with the fan base, with the people who have supported him all these 2 years, and continuously prove himself why he is the emblematic player of this team. I think now my other question is, would you give Nico Cordy back his starting position, or would you go with Ben Willis after his performance last Sunday?
Well, Ben Willis's performance was fantastic for that game, no lie. But the only difference is inexperience. The experience compared to what Ben Willis has done, and that's why I'd give Nico Cordy back his starting spot. And what we did see a lot throughout the season, and we have seen in a couple of seasons, how RGVFC and also Houston like to really deal with the Toros goalkeepers is week in and week out, they would kind of switch them around. And we'd see the triangle basically go from one point to the next for each of them. And I think that's what we'll see, and we'll probably see Cordy back in goal nonetheless. Now, that's not to say I could be way wrong. We could even see Nelson in goal for all I know. But for sure, I think just due to that inexperience, we could probably see Nico Cordy back in the starting lineup, just on goal because of more experience.
Mm-hmm.
Goes as simple as that. But of course, what has been going on in practice? They've of course probably been fighting for the goalie position. It's almost like a quarterback battle for football every week. We just don't necessarily know who's going to shine better than the other for the goalkeeper's starting spot. I think that's how it'll go.
Now, going into this match, I will say this. If we do get a win against Portland Timbers 2, we have the potential to go up to at the most 12th place, which is better than 15, right?
Yep.
It's no playoffs, but it's at least kind of shows a decent showing. What needs to happen? So 2 things. We have to defeat Portland Timbers 2, which brings us up to 41 points, right? Portland Timbers 2 right now, right now with 41 points is 12th place Las Vegas Lights. They have 41 points, -8 differential. With at least a 1-0 win, with any win, we would at least tie with them, even their goal differentials as well. Even if it's a one goal lead, we'd go to a -8 like Las Vegas Lights has with 41 points. But also, New Mexico is going against Las Vegas Lights. And obviously if they lose, they have a lesser or a more negative goal differential, which would help us, and would also serve New Mexico United to leapfrog past San Antonio FC in the 10th place position. Oh man, I would love that. I just want to see San Antonio without any, without playoffs once again. But I think San Antonio is going against. Let me tell you who they're going against. They're going against Colorado Switchbacks, last place team.
Yeah, but the Colorado Switchbacks is always are, especially at home, a tough opponent, to say so the least. And they will give a fight and maybe just see it be 0-0 or 1-1. If, of course, on the road. If at home in the sandbox.
It's at the sandbox.
Well, then maybe not.
Hey, but you know what? Colorado did defeat 2-0 LA Galaxy 2 last week, on October 5th.
Yeah.
So they do kind of have the potential to kind of play spoiler on San Antonio. Oh, I would love to see that.
Yeah, and then we would probably see the departure of, the head coach for San Antonio. I think it's a make or break game for him. If they make playoffs, he might stay.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I wonder what Harry would think on that.
I mean that no. I'm pretty sure he's going to be one of the ones that would say if he doesn't make it, he'd have to go.
Yeah,
Coach
just
Powell.
the way that the season has been, the start of their season too.
And Copa Texas.
Exactly, considering they're the ones that created it.
Well,
Burn.
Oh, ouch. You went there. So there's the potential to end up decently this season. That would put us 3 points over last year's run of points. Still not good enough in my eyes.
Of course not. No.
I mean, I'm never going to be happy about not making playoffs. I don't care what the Dynamo coach says. I don't care that Dynamo thinks, it's how can you say it's a failure when we've gotten so and so players into the first team? I'm like, hello. Number one, how many of you played them consistently in MLS? 0.
7.
All right, yeah, good to know. And you keep on screwing us over. We're not making playoffs. Yeah, how can you say that is not a failure, Wilmer Cabrera? Oh yeah. I was still holding on to that one, and he knows it. Even though he's already right now in Montreal. But that's one of the things that kind of irked me about when he did say that. Not only that he said it, but also the way he told it to me, kind of like all annoyed that I even asked him about that. This was back in the beginning and preseason of last year.
Yeah.
That was when it
and let's also recall or remember that Wilmer Cabrera has to stay strict to the Houston Dynamo. Let's not really talk about anything positive about this team. And also, let's not talk about anything at all to the media. He has to stay on that strict basic comment rule.
The canned responses?
Yeah.
Curse you, Matt Jordan!
Exactly. Or even worse, curse you, owner.
I don't think
it
it's
could
an
even go
owner
as
thing.
far as that.
I don't think it's an ownership thing. I think it's just...
whoever writes the rules for the front office / coaches to look, you can only do this. You can't specify about anything else, aka injuries.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a big one.
Oh, that's annoying, and I think I think it would be annoying for the league as well. Because as far as I know, it's a requirement that they should release, an injury list. And week in and week out, we know there's people that are injured. I mean, Aldo, Hector Copete, and you look at where it says like, oh, injury list, none. Okay. Like, really? But
so Aldo Quintanilla is magically healed up, but will never be in the lineup. What?
you think he might be at least on the bench on Friday?
There's a possibility. I think I can see him suiting up for sure. Yeah, of course, it's ACL tears are tough to come back from. You don't want to rush it, and of course, he didn't rush it one bit.
I think I'd like to see him at least the last 5 minutes, at least to see him like on the field before the season is over.
I would love to see that as well. I hope that will happen too, or at least just to, or at least just to see him on the bench, suited up in his regular number. That'll be awesome.
I can definitely agree with that. I think it's time. I think he's another one of those players, where you have that question like, is he staying? Is he leaving?
Yeah.
For next season. And granted, with 2017, he was one of our best strikers, for this team.
With that injury too.
Yeah. So.
Well, no, 2017. My bad. 2018 playing with that injury.
Yeah, 2017. Wait. No, when did he come? When did he come into this team? I think in 2018. Because in 2017 it was Kyle Murphy.
Yeah.
I think so. I think he came in 2018. He was one of our best strikers. Then you had Carlos Small come in, kind of helped him out as well. Then 2018, before the season begins, he's injured. He gets this really long ACL injury. You're like, damn. Even Dynamo fans were putting attention on him after that Open Cup match against NTX Rayados. So it'd be good to. I think it'd be great to see him at least, like you say, at least on the bench this coming Friday. So predictions, Jacob.
Predictions, always the fun time. I see RGVFC getting the W at home for their final match. A score of 3-1. They don't get the shutout, but they do get the win. They score 2 goals, and a late one goes in the back of the net for the Portland Timbers 2, and then another late one goes in the back of the net for RGVFC.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that one scored by Chewy in his maybe farewell game. Just a 2-year deal is the frustrating part. We all know it's a 2-year limit. Once you're done with that, there's a slight chance you will be there for 3.
And that sucks because that includes players like Kyle. That includes players like Connor.
Yep.
You've also have Chewy, Nico, Carlos.
Yeah, I think Nico's an exception to that just due to the fact he's a goalkeeper.
Yeah, but then you look at the fact that you've got a really good keeper behind him like Ben Willis. I mean, if he's already here,
he's already been here in front of him too. Yeah,
and he's already been here 2 years, and you've already have Nelson. Now you have Ben Willis.
Yeah, one of them's going.
And he got somebody up and coming from the academy.
Yeah. And you got a ton of keepers coming from the academy, not just Houston Dynamos, but RGVFCs too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I watched them, and the backup keeper for the U15s ain't too good, but the starting keeper for that guy is amazing. So you'll see him in the U20s and all of that, and it'll be interesting. Of course, the next one is U17s, but you get my point. It's just, how did that all start? As in, Houston just were able to get goalkeepers like that? I don't know. But we've always at least had a decent keeper behind our starting one.
Mm-hmm.
Tally Hall, to be for a great example, actually, was behind. I don't even know that guy, but that was at the start of Houston Dynamo. And then Tally Hall comes in for a while playing fantastic, and then, of course, dies down. Tally Hall being also the only goalkeeper for Houston Dynamo to score a goal.
Mm-hmm.
The only keeper or something like that. And then, of course, Tally Hall starts to play bad, but guess who's right behind him? Tyler Derrick. And Tyler Derrick looked great. He still looks amazing. And then who was right behind him once again? Joe Willis.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how did that start? We just got lucky with it or something? I don't know. But it's at least
whoever
is
in charge of scouting keepers has done a great job. I think that's the key right there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember who the goalkeeper coach is, but I think he's done a decent job being able to not only identify these good keepers, but also being able to help develop them, into kind of juicing out their talent in MLS. So my prediction for this match against Portland Timbers 2, I think it's going to be a 3-0 win. I think this loss against El Paso Locomotive, I think that was kind of like the death of Portland Timbers 2, which sucks because the last time we faced Portland Timbers 2, if I recall correctly, they were in first place at that time in the Western Conference.
Yeah, they were in first place. We were on our stride as well, and we were able to knock them off, which once again we've done several times, knocking off the number one team in the West.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just,
Except
that was
Phoenix.
a crazy game. They went downhill somehow.
Yeah. So now that we're kind of tied with them in points, and they're on the downward slope. That we're on the up. We're on the up, and like I said, I think it's going to be a 3-0 win. I think the goal scorers are going to be Chuy. I'm going to dare say, Chuy, Carlos Esmal, and I'm going to go ahead and dare say that Juan Carlos Obregón is going to score a goal this Friday.
Aldo Quintanilla scores.
So,
boldest of predictions. Aldo Quintanilla scores a goal.
In the last second.
Exactly.
I think for me, bold prediction would be 4-0. It's going to be a 4-0 win. And it's going to be a Carlos Small hat trick. And Robert Coronado scores the fourth goal.
For me, I will go with a 5 for the bold prediction. 5-3 Toros victory. Things do get heated, and each team has one player sent off for the game. That, for us, being Carlos Small, because he's our easiest player to target for that type of stuff, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, then I don't know who else for Portland Timbers, but either way, one of their players gets sent off. A couple of yellow cards, but the ref kind of losing control of the game. And, well, there you go, 5-3. Julian Enriquez back in the lineup, scores, and I don't know. Isidro gets a goal. Isidro gets a brace, actually. So.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that's gonna pretty much wrap up the show. Like I said, we probably will not be having an episode next week. Probably in November we'll have one, and we'll kind of wrap up. Kind of do a summary of the show I want to see if hopefully we can get some guests. Like I said in the beginning of the show, we can get some guests on to talk about RGV season. I guess from both the Dynamo perspective and the RGV perspective. I wonder if Victor would be willing to come on to talk. I'll ask him. Also, I know this Friday, I'm not going to make it to the game. I'm probably just going to be coming in, arriving into the Valley, once the final whistle comes in. So, and I know you're going to be working because it's Friday Night Lights.
Exactly. Thanks, USL.
Thank you, USL. We know that you always have our backs. Not. So, I will be presenting the trophy to Isidro Martinez right then and there. We'll post the video on our social media when we presented to him. Thank you all for all of those who participated and voted in the poll. Hope we can add some more stuff come next season, more awards and other different ideas that we have in mind for the show. We are working on a couple other things to add on, and we talked about it off the air. Come for next season. So be sure to wait for those and expect those announcements once things are officialized and finalized.
We're getting a sponsor. Just kidding.
You never know. But we really would like to thank you all for all of your support this past season. I think in a lot of aspects we've grown so much. We've learned a lot of things about this team, about our players, about our coaching staff, and as far as making these shows, it's grown a little bit. I think we can only go up from here once we get some sort of backing. Whether in trying to help extend our reach to you guys. So I'm looking forward to everything new that is coming in our future, and we would love to grow along with y'all as an RGVFC fan base. I'm really excited for what the future holds for Down in the Valley. Jacob, final thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. Same deal. Really looking forward to next season as well. And just, it's been a fantastic one. Yes, up and downs as always, but always fun talking on this show nonetheless. Always great times, and stay tuned for the future. Simple as that. Just like Edson said.
So be sure to follow us on our social media. We have Facebook right there, Down in the RGV, Twitter at Down in the RGV, and you also have Instagram at Down in the RGV. Be sure to follow us on those social media pages. We will be posting any updates, any announcements that we make. For sure, next season we are going to be a lot more consistent when it comes to the audio only podcast. Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Apple Music, Google Podcasts. We finally got a producer that will start making those podcasts come next season. Justin, thank you so much for volunteering and helping us with that. I want to thank the guys at the Peel, honestly, for their support. Justin, Josh, thank you guys for your support.
Just really as not too much for Justin because he is a Philly fan.
True. Never forget that he is a Philly fan, and we know everybody hates Philly.
Yep.
So, but thank you guys. I know this season there was a lot of ups and downs for not only the show but also us personally. But we kind of take this as a learning experience and just move on from there. Come back stronger. One of the things that we've learned, we thank everybody who has helped us in their moments. But there are cycles that come and go, and we just have to move on from them. Mm-hmm. So thank you so much for everything. Once again, be sure to look at our social media to see when we go live next during this off season and what we will be talking about. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.